I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11 Alive Weather Impact Team, where we do have a weather impact alert that is in effect for our area today with this line of showers and storms that are moving in. The main things we're going to be watching for: a lower end risk for the potential for severe weather. As of right now, we do not have any severe thunderstorm warnings. We do not have any tornado warnings, but we do have some counties in West Georgia that are in a tornado watch until 11 o'clock this morning. I'm going to break down more of that for you coming up in just a little bit. But first, I just want you to see an overview of what we're watching here on radar, where we do have no rain here in Atlanta yet. The skies are dark. They are getting darker as we watch this system from the west that is moving our way. Where we do see some of the rain and heavy rain in spots is up in northwest Georgia. This is the leading edge of that line of heavier rain that is pushing into our area right now, stretching back to just right along I-20 there, and north of that in West Georgia into parts of Haralson County. It's through Polk County, now moving into Paulding County. Heavy rain over Bartow County. That's about to push into Cherokee County. This leading edge moving into Pickens County. Some of that will be moving into Gilmer and Fannin County in just a little bit. This is where we have some of that heavy rain, but notice we don't have a lot of lightning with this leading edge coming in. And as we mentioned, no severe thunderstorm warnings with this, or tornado warnings either. In Atlanta, we're still dry. You can see the part that's going to be moving through Atlanta is still way back into parts of West Georgia, so it's going to take a while before that actually moves into our area late morning, mainly into the afternoon hours. So take a look at this leading edge. You can see these heavier showers that have been over Haralson County for a while. This is a slow mover. This leading edge is still taking a while as it pushes on over to the east of us. That heavier rain moving into Yorkville here in parts of Paulding County. That'll push into Dallas in just a little bit as well. Rockmart seeing some of that heavier rain, and then you see moving up through Taylorsville, Cartersville, right along 75. You're getting that heavier rain pushing through your area right now, stretching up to Pine Log, Waleska, Canton, and Woodstock. You will be next with that heavier rain pushing in from the west, moving over to the east of you. And then again, that stretches up. LJ, generally lighter showers on up into the Fannin County area. And then you can see the more moderate rain left behind. The lightning, we have a few lightning strikes that have been over parts of northwest Georgia. Most of that lightning is still out to the west in parts of Alabama. You see the heavier rain now well into Anniston and also Talladega, that leading edge here into areas of Cleburne County, about to move into Randolph County, and again, all those areas that we mentioned in northwest Georgia. So the track of this will keep it pushing closer to the metro area. I want to take a closer look at these showers right now so you can see kind of these areas. We're really watching closely for any areas of rotation that could develop, and we're not seeing anything that is standing out right now. When we take a look at our velocity mode a little bit earlier today, we were seeing some spots with some broad rotation, but not tight enough to be classified as any type of tornado signature here on radar. So the severe weather threat is on the low end, but it's also not a zero risk for strong storms. And even though we're encouraged by the fact that we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings even back into Alabama, notice we do have that tornado watch covering much of Alabama here, and that extends into parts of West Georgia. Again, I'll break down those counties because those counties have been changing a little bit. The National Weather Service has been taking out a few of those counties in northwest Georgia from that actual tornado watch. We're also waiting to see. The National Weather Service will be coordinating with the Storm Prediction Center shortly. Again, this watch that you're seeing there in Alabama and into parts of West Georgia expires at 11 o'clock this morning. They'll be coordinating with the Storm Prediction Center to determine whether or not they're going to issue a new watch that could include parts of the metro area. Because what's happening now, even though there's nothing severe there now in back into Alabama, we're now though seeing the daytime hours and some of that heating beginning to move in to our area now that we're of course well into the daytime hours here, and especially into the afternoon, where we can see a little bit more of that heating, which could add some instability and add to that potential that a couple of those storms could turn strong. And again, a lower level severe weather threat, but it's not a zero severe weather threat out there either. Here is that update on the tornado watch in effect. Earlier, it did include all of northwest Georgia, but the National Weather Service has been taking out a few counties. They just took out Floyd County and Chattooga County, no longer in that watch. Earlier, we had parts of Gordon County in the watch. That's no longer in it. So the area is still in this tornado watch until 11 o'clock for another 55 minutes. That includes Bartow County, Paulding County, Douglas County, down to Heard County, Carroll County, also Haralson County and Polk County, and Cleburne and Randolph too, back into Alabama, and that extends back into a big part of Alabama as well, along that line of strong storms that moves on through. The Storm Prediction Center also keeps us in a level 2 of 5 risk for some scattered stronger storms that are possible today along that line. Like, not everything along that line is going to be severe, but as we get some of that heating and a little more instability coming in today, we'll have to watch that leading edge of those showers and storms and that line moving in to see whether or not we could have any severe thunderstorms developing out of that, or any rotation developing out of it either. But again, the tornado risk is on the low end for us here for the rest of the afternoon hours. And the bigger threat for us really that we're going to be watching is going to be that flood risk. You saw all those areas in the southeast where we have that flood watch that's in effect for multiple states, but that does extend into North Georgia, Metro Atlanta, East Georgia, areas to the south of us. We also have some flood warnings. These are some flood warnings in North Georgia. Flash flood warning near Birmingham. Because this is a slow mover, because it has the pockets of heavy rain with it, that's really going to be our bigger threat, to see some pockets of really heavy rain that could give us some flooding here. I'm just looking to make sure we don't have any additional weather information coming through right now with any additional warnings or any indications here from the Weather Service of whether or not we'll have another tornado watch potentially issued here for our area later on today. So this is what we're going to be watching. We have the weather impact alert in effect for through the afternoon and into the evening hours here. As we're watching this band of heavy rain coming through, the main threats will be that heavy rain. We could have some gusty winds and strong winds. And again, if those winds get up to 58 miles an hour or greater, or any of those storms have those winds with some hail with them up to 1 inch in diameter or more, we could see some severe thunderstorm warnings. And also watching, even though it's a low risk for tornadoes, it's not a zero risk for tornadoes. We have to watch any development of broad rotation or any tighter rotation with that to see if we're going to have any type of tornado warnings with it. Again, tornado risk on the lower end. We're not overly concerned about a widespread tornado outbreak or really a widespread severe weather outbreak. It's just going to be watching this line of storms moving in and seeing how any additional instability is going to react with that. The bigger threat still looks like it's going to be those pockets of heavy rain with the potential for some flooding. If you were watching us at 9 o'clock on 11 Alive Plus, as well as on 11 Alive on television for our 9 o'clock newscast this morning, we were showing really heavy rain in Rome a little bit earlier. Now, we still have rain there, but it's just not as heavy as it was earlier. Here is a live view. This is our tower cam out on Arizona Avenue, looking westward toward the city of Atlanta, where we do see the skyline here of the city and up into the Midtown area, and just look at those darker clouds that are filling into our area right now. I want to check one thing. I'm keeping an eye on the Braves here on their Twitter feed, and we also have our producers here who are keeping an eye on whether or not what the Braves are thinking. Now, they just issued the lineup just 1 minute ago for the Braves starters, but there's no indications from the Braves of what they're thinking about the afternoon game today. I think it's going to be really iffy whether or not they're going to get it in. I don't know if they'll try to start a game and then maybe have, some delays or not. So we'll let you know if we hear from the Braves on whether or not they're going to be having any delays or anything for their game for today. I do think it's going to be rather tricky because once this rain gets in here, it is going to be heavy at times. It's a slow mover, and I think we'll have some pretty persistent rain during the day out there too. So here's a look at our temperature, 71, all right? These are some keys here of what we're going to be watching as this rain moves in. You can see up ahead of it, we have more of these 70s around. 71 in Atlanta, 70 in Athens, 70 in Covington. That's at the 10 o'clock hour here, in the morning hours, in those lower 70s. Where we see the rain coming in, it has cooled off a little bit. Lower 60s in Rome and Dalton, 62 in Canton, 69 in Marietta. Again, the rain's not in Marietta yet, but it's about to get there. 67 in Carrollton as that rain is pushing in too. So the rain is going to help to cool things off just a little bit. But then add in any heating from the day, and it'll be interesting to watch these temperatures today, and not only at the surface but also in the upper levels to see if we're going to have enough lift with any of those storms for them to turn severe. The other thing that could be in our favor is that, okay, let me see here. Okay, I'll look at this convective outlook here in just a second. We just got some new information in from the National Weather Service. Let me see what they're saying here. For whether or not they're going to issue a new tornado watch. So I'll let you know when we get the rest of that information in. Nicole is back there, Sydney, if you need her for anything. Nicole can help you. Okay. So we continue here with these temperatures and just watching what happens, whether or not this leading edge would kind of knock down any of that instability with some rain-cooled air. That would be in our favor today. So a lot to watch with the dynamics here in our atmosphere for those storms as they move in. But here's what we're expecting for the rest of the day. I'm not seeing many breaks in this system at all. I think we'll see a good coverage of rain around. Temperatures generally holding there in the mid to lower 70s throughout the rest of the daytime hours. We don't think we're going to see any big time rises today because we're going to have more of these showers around, and again watching some of that thunder and lightning that'll be moving in. So here's the forecast track where we have that's the leading edge pushing in now, stretching back into Alabama, pretty much lining up there along Interstate 59 in Alabama. And you see these storms continuing to push into our area now, eventually getting into Atlanta. So this is at 2:30 in the afternoon. Still not a lot of rain here in the Atlanta, in the city itself, but this leading edge is pushing in. I do think this model is a little bit behind based on what we're currently seeing out there. I do think these showers might get into Atlanta before the 2:30 time frame. But you see, notice here that what I want you to notice, even if the timing may be off just a little bit, notice just the slow movement of this line pushing in, where we do have this heavier rain that'll be with us off and on throughout the daytime hours. We could see some breaks later on this evening as that main line moves to the east of us, but we're not totally finished with it. We'll have additional surges of moisture moving in. This is at 10 o'clock tonight, and even in the early morning hours tomorrow. The bands of heavier rain, most likely over to the east of us, beginning to move out there in North Georgia, but maybe holding on for a little while here in the metro area before it finally ends during the day. And temperatures are going to be much cooler here. We had temperatures in the upper 80s for the end of the week and through much of the weekend, with even record-breaking heat here on Friday. Now we're going to see these temperatures falling back into the 60s as we start the week and even get into the middle of the week too. But we will see more sunshine coming in. Any of those clouds on Monday that are lingering for a while will move out late Monday and into Tuesday. We're looking good with a good bit of sunshine that we'll be dealing with Tuesday, also into Wednesday. But again, those temperatures will be cooler. So take a look at the highs over the next few days. On Monday, we may not even make it into the 60s. We may hold in the 50s and see those temperatures falling during the day. Then 61 Tuesday, 67 Wednesday, back to 72 Thursday, and then 67 on Friday. And here's a look at the extended models there for the European model. We see that moisture moving out. Tuesday, we're dry. Wednesday, we are dry. Going into Thursday, still mainly dry conditions. There might be a couple of showers here on Friday. Of course, we're keeping a close eye on that too for the Masters over in Augusta on Friday. But we think this is going to be a system that won't linger around on Friday and into the weekend. Things are looking much better going into Saturday and Sunday. So next weekend, hopefully, is going to be a lot nicer than what we're dealing with for the second half of this weekend as we're watching those storms moving through here and that heavy rain pushing in for your Sunday. So we hold on to that weather impact alert for today. And then Monday, much cooler air, temperatures in the 50s and even falling during the day. More sunshine Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Even though it's going to be cool Tuesday, we start warming up a little bit or moderating a little bit Wednesday, back to 67, lower 70s on Thursday. With that rain chance on Friday, we're talking about some 60s. And Saturday, more sunshine. But with those temperatures that will be continuing to push on down back into the 60s here heading into the weekend. I want to go back to radar though. excuse me, so you can see these areas that we're watching with these storms that continue to move on through. I want to see this update. I'm going to look at this on my phone really quick because we did get an update from the National Weather Service. Central southern Alabama, far southeast Mississippi, western and central Georgia, onto how they're going to treat this tornado watch. They're saying that there is some intensification of the storms along and ahead of the squall line are possible during the later morning hours, and they're updating us saying that there is the possibility that they may issue a new watch and possibly even a tornado watch after the 11 o'clock hour, potentially for additional areas. So there is that tornado watch. In fact, let me show you that tornado watch once again here. That includes still just a few counties there in West Georgia, not including the Atlanta area. That's for Douglas, Paulding, Bartow, and again, back to the Georgia-Alabama line, also including Cleburne and Randolph in Alabama. But the Storm Prediction Center is updating us saying that there is the potential that they will have to extend a new watch more to the east. When that's going to come, we just don't quite know yet. We've got that there. We don't know exactly when that will come, but I assume they would issue that before the other watch. This watch expires at 11. So it is possible the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center may add some more counties into this watch. So before I take you back to our 24/7 mode here in radar, I want to just show you again what we're watching with these storms here coming in from the west. The lightning is a little more impressive back into Alabama where we have all this lightning here, thunder and lightning moving through, but no severe storms with that. This is the leading edge coming in. We do have a lightning strike there in southern parts of Floyd County. So this is the leading edge, but just when the leading edge comes through, that doesn't mean it's going to end immediately. We still have a lot more rain that's going to be pushing through with more thunder and lightning. And again, we are pleased to say that there are no warnings back into Alabama right now, no severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings, no warnings in northwest Georgia either, but it is possible we could see these storms intensifying a little bit more as we get just a little bit of heating coming in for the rest of the daytime hours here for today. So what we're going to do, we're going to take you back to our regularly scheduled programming, here on 11 Alive Plus. We're going to take you to radar mode, 24/7 radar mode, so you can watch these storms and the progression of these storms throughout the morning hours at any time. Flip it here to 11 Alive Plus for that continuing coverage. Nicole Hartford will be back with us at 10:30 this morning. Hopefully, she's hopefully going to be in the streaming studio with some technical issues there. We hope she's going to be able to be back there at 10:30 with another extended outlook here at 10:30 this morning. So for now, back to 24/7 radar mode with more updates upcoming. Good morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11 Alive Weather Impact Team. We continue with our streaming here on 11 Alive Plus and our 11 Alive Weather 24/7, Weather Impact 24/7. As we're tracking these storms that are moving through our area, there is a tornado watch in effect that does include some counties in West Georgia. We're also waiting for the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center. They're telling us they are most likely going to issue a new watch that will include the metro Atlanta area that could go through the rest of the afternoon hours. As you can see here on radar, we're watching these storms as they are moving in. The good news about this right now is we do not have any of these storms that are classified as severe right now. But with some heating, now that we're getting into the daytime hours and we'll see a little bit of heating coming in, we could see a little more instability here developing along with some of these storms as they develop going through the daytime hours. So you can see what we're watching there on radar. A lot of the lightning, we don't have much lightning here in North Georgia. We've had just a couple little lightning strikes here and there, but most of the lightning is still back into Alabama, and that's where the storms are a little bit stronger. But even with that, there are no severe thunderstorm warnings. There are no tornado warnings in effect back into Alabama. But don't let your guard down yet, because we still have that potential for some warnings that could develop here during the day. Again, with any instability added into this, as these storms continue to push into our direction with that heating, we could see those turn strong at any time. Here is the motion with this. You'll notice that this is moving pretty slowly. So we're going to see these bands of heavy rain moving in, and it's going to be pretty persistent rain throughout the day today. That could be moderate to heavy at times, and again, some of that thunder and lightning with it too. Here's that leading edge right now. Nothing in Atlanta yet, but we're going to be close here. It's going to be close to us here as that the leading edge continues to feed on into our area. In fact, Northwest Georgia has been covered by rain pretty much all morning long, and it's just a slow movement over to the east of us. So here's Atlanta right now. A couple of lighter showers trying to move into North Cobb and North Fulton County, but the heaviest rain, that leading edge, is right now into areas of Cherokee County, about to cross over 575 with that leading edge. And again, that stretches back into Paulding County and back into Haralson County and beginning to move into Carroll County, Cleburne and Randolph County. Cleburne is getting some of the heavy rain. Randolph, you don't have it yet, but it is about to push into your area now. So you can see West Georgia pretty much covered up here with light to moderate and pockets of heavy rain. You've got rain in Rockmart, Cedartown, Cave Spring, Taylorsville. Also, more of this rain here moving into Rockmart with that heavier rain about to push in. Also into the Dallas area, some of the heavier rain about to move into those spots as well. Cartersville, you have the heavier rain. There's that leading edge. This is 575, what I was showing here a moment ago. That latest scan here shows that crossing over 575 from Canton over to the ball ground area, about to move into Woodstock with that heavier rain in the southern part of the county there, getting into North Cobb, and again, Northwest Cobb getting some of that heavier rain, all moving over to the east. Also in North Georgia, get ready in Lumpkin County, also get ready in parts of Dawson County with these heavier showers that are about to move on in, and then of course that stretches back into West Georgia, and then even more of that rain and thunder and lightning back into Alabama. Heaviest rain, Anniston, about to move into Wadowee there and parts of Randolph County, back towards Sycamore and approaching Alexander City. Interstate 59 in Alabama has been dealing with heavy rain for a while. I-20 in Alabama, and all of that pushing into the rest of Georgia and into the metro area too. Look at the red box here, the large red box that covers a lot of Alabama and that extends into West Georgia. That's where we have a tornado watch right now that's going to be in effect until 11 o'clock this morning. Now, I mentioned earlier on the stream a little while ago that the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center are now coordinating with each other, and they are most likely going to issue another watch. They call it downstream from the current one. So we most likely are going to have another watch that moves into Georgia, most likely impacting the Atlanta area or including the Atlanta area. And my guess is that that watch is going to extend well into the afternoon hour. So that's the next thing that we're waiting for from the National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center. Right now, the current watch back in Alabama that overlaps the state line into Georgia Does not include Atlanta, but it does include areas when you go out west here, west of Atlanta, into Douglas County. It includes Paulding County. It also includes Bartow County. Earlier, it included Floyd County and areas of northwest Georgia, but the Weather Service has been taking those counties out as the threat has diminished for them with that leading edge that's already passed through those parts of northwest Georgia. Here is a look at our convective outlook showing for today a level 2 of 5 risk for some storms that could turn strong. Even though we don't see any severe storms now, it is still possible some could develop. And that main threat would be the pockets of heavy rain, the potential for some flooding in some spots, and then a risk for some severe thunderstorms with gusty winds that could get to 58 miles an hour or greater. Small hail is possible with some of these later on today. And then the tornado risk is on the low end, but it's also not zero. So at any time with this line of storms, we can see some rotation developing out of that. Look at all the flood advisories and warnings over a big part of the southeast. This is really going to be our bigger threat today, is with the pockets of heavy rain moving in. We're talking 1 to 3 inches of rain possible for a lot of areas. There could be some isolated spots that pick up 4 to even 5 inches of rain because of the slow movement of the system. Now, the dark green color you see here shows the flood watch. That's going to be in effect through Monday evening, or Monday late afternoon into the evening, with the lingering showers that'll be with us for even part of the day tomorrow too. It's not going to be as heavy early tomorrow as it is for us throughout the day today, but just be aware of that flood watch. We also have flood warnings in effect for North Alabama and up into parts of Tennessee, and it is possible we could see more of those flood warnings pushing into our area today too. So we have the weather impact alert in effect through the rest of the daytime hours, really through the evening hours, later in the evening hours tonight. The main threats being heavy rain, the strong wind possible with some of these storms, and that lower end risk for any tornadoes or any rotation that could develop out of that. So we want you just to stay alert. Be sure to watch us here on streaming off and on throughout the day today, as well as keeping an eye on our 11 Alive app, where you can download our app on your phone as well. You can turn on the alerts so that you can be alerted with any warnings that are issued. Also on your phone, make sure your wireless emergency alerts, WEA, make sure that is on your phone, and it will automatically send you warnings too if your phone is in one of those polygons when they get issued. And of course, National Weather Service radio is the best thing to have. You saw that rain that we're watching up in Floyd County right now. It was heavier in Floyd earlier, not as heavy as it is, not as heavy now as it was earlier. This is our tower cam at Arizona Avenue, looking over toward the west, toward the city and the Midtown area. Dark clouds coming in, and we're about to see that rain ramp up a little bit later. Still going to take a little while before it gets in here. Temperatures are the other thing we're going to be watching today. We're not expecting big time rises in our temperatures today, but any additional warmth that we get in as we're well into the daytime hours now instead of the overnight hours, any additional warmth that we get will help to add. That warm air just kind of fuels these storms a little bit more and add to a little bit of that instability. So we do have that warmer air beginning to push in here ahead of that rain. 72 in Atlanta, 71 right now in Covington, 71 in Athens. But in North Georgia, where we're seeing that rain, it has cooled things down a little bit. Look at Canton at 62. Marietta, the rain hasn't made it into your area yet. It's 70 there, but in Rome, where we've had rain for a while, it's 61, 62 in the Dalton area. So where we're seeing that rain, it's cooling things down a little bit and stabilizing the atmosphere somewhat. So we're hoping that will reduce our severe weather threat into the afternoon hours. Once we get this main leading edge, that main line moving in here, we'll see the temperatures most likely not rising much. We think we're going to be holding in the lower 70s here for much of those afternoon hours, and still watching that rain and that storm risk push on in. So here's a look at that line of showers and storms as they move through today. At lunchtime, that's the time frame. Lunchtime is when we're going to see most of that rain beginning to move into the metro area and then hanging out with us through the afternoon hours. Braves game today is an afternoon game. I don't think it looks that promising because we will have this rain lingering. I don't think we'll see a lot of dry times today. This is going to be a pretty persistent rain. We're monitoring and keeping up with the Atlanta Braves, any official statements coming in. So far, they have posted the lineup for today's game, but no indication about any weather contingencies going on so far. But as we get closer to game time coming up this afternoon, they'll be giving us more on that. But you can see these showers moving in. And again, additional rain, heavy rain at times coming in into the afternoon hours. Now, we're hoping that this part of the rain won't have a severe weather threat with them, but it's something we have to watch all day long. And then heavier rain still through the early evening hours tonight and even to the late evening. And that's why we have that flood risk, and why we're thinking with these pockets of heavy rain, the flood risk is actually going to be higher later today than the severe weather risk. And then going into tomorrow morning, still some lingering showers for your drive into work. Most likely it's going to be a wet drive, clearing out though in northwest Georgia. And just watching this back edge, the heaviest rain moves to the east, but still a few lingering showers through lunchtime here on Monday. Hopefully beginning to dry out a little bit more later in the day on Monday. That's why the flood watch extends into Monday in the afternoon and into the evening hours. We do dry out late Monday, and then Tuesday looking much better, but it is going to be cooler. We're talking about our temperatures on Monday may not even make it out of the 50s. And then for Tuesday and Wednesday, we're talking 60s here, and then gradually warming up into the end of the week. Well, we'll have to watch at the end of the week also the potential for a couple of showers moving in. So there you see, we may not even make it up to 60 degrees on Monday. Temperatures in the upper 50s, lower 60s Tuesday, 67 Wednesday, 72 Thursday, excuse me, 67 on Friday. And on Friday, we'll have another chance for some rain moving in, but we think that'll be out of here in time for the weekend. And that thing next Friday doesn't look like it would be a big severe weather threat. So you see the rain moving out Tuesday, drier. Wednesday is also drier here. Things are looking good there. Going into Thursday, you can see a few showers trying to move into North Georgia. That'll just kind of spread into our area. This isn't a big time rain chance, but we're talking about 30, maybe 40% chance for showers at the end of the week. But then that looks like it'll clear out in time for the weekend. Good news for the folks in Augusta for the Masters. They may have some rain issues on Friday, but the weekend is looking much better here for Saturday as well as on Sunday for a nice weekend in store. So here's that 7-day outlook. You can see that weather impact alert still in effect for today. Highs near 74 degrees. We will be watching the rain throughout the day off and on. Then continuing through the period here on Monday, a few lingering showers that will be with us on Monday, and temperatures much cooler at 58 degrees. Then lower 60s here on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, a low of 40. Now I know you have a lot of flowers and plants that are blooming out there right now. I think we're going to be just fine here on Wednesday, but 40 degrees for a low and even some areas in the 30s. There could be some patchy frost with us on Wednesday, so you may have to protect some plants Wednesday. Thursday back to 72. There's that lower rain chance Friday, then cooler again heading into the weekend. Stay with us. We're going to have another update for you at 11. Nicole Hartford will be here in our streaming center updating you on that as we get closer to the 11 o'clock hour. And we'll have more extended updates here throughout the day on 11 Alive Plus. And we'll break into programming on 11 Alive if necessary, if any tornado warnings are issued.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on 11 Alive Plus. I'm meteorologist Nicole Hartford as we track this line of showers and storms that's moving across the southeast and now into North Georgia. We do have a weather impact alert associated with this as storms continue on and off throughout the day today. There's a couple things that we're going to be watching out for when it comes to the storm threat. The first is for the potential for some stronger to even severe storms that could produce some gusty winds. And as temperatures increase throughout the next couple of hours ahead of that line of storms, our severe threat becomes a little bit more elevated. Now, within those isolated strong to severe storms, we may see some areas of rotation, so a brief spin-up tornado can't be ruled out. I want to stress, though, that the tornado threat is very low. Slightly higher risk we'll be watching is for some heavy rainfall that could lead to flooding, and this flood risk will really evolve throughout the day today because our showers and storms are slow moving. These are what is currently showing up on our radar. A lot of the stronger storms, the lightning associated with it, mainly off towards Alabama. We do have a couple rumbles of thunder, some strikes of lightning up into the far northwest corner of the state, as well as some pockets of some very heavy rainfall. Most of that extends through the northwestern corner of the state, really stretching from Carroll County up into Haralson and then all the way up towards the north into Floyd and Chattooga, as well as out towards the east, with some of that heavier rainfall currently making its way through portions of Cherokee County and even starting to enter into far north Fulton County. I mentioned so far we haven't had a lot of lightning and thunder associated with this. So far, these storms have managed to stay below severe criteria, but as the day progresses, we could see increasing temperatures lead to additional instability in the atmosphere, with that warmth essentially acting as fuel for the possibility of some strong to severe storms. Here's that main line of storms currently pressing its way down towards the east. You can see all that lightning that is currently ongoing through portions of Alabama, and the main line of storms really stretches down into portions of Mississippi, even Louisiana, all the way up towards our north into Tennessee as well. Now, these storms have been big rainmakers. The setup of this the last couple of days has been a stalled front across the Midwest that has led to prolonged periods of rainfall and day after day of severe weather, as well as flooding through portions of the Midwest. In fact, there are some spots that since Wednesday off towards Tennessee into Arkansas, Missouri, as well as Kentucky have picked up 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. Now, that's multiple days of accumulation. We're talking 1, maybe 2 days of accumulation of rainfall here, but it still comes with a flood risk. Because of all the heavy rainfall across the Midwest and portions of the Mid-South, there are a number of flood warnings as well as flash flood warnings that are in effect off to our northwest. In anticipation of the heavier rainfall, we have a flood watch in effect across North Georgia that will be in effect throughout Monday evening. So that flood watch encompasses pretty much all of North Georgia. It's those typical low-lying spots we're going to be watching for the closest around streams and creeks. Of course, if you are going to be out on the roadways, it is important that you pay attention. If you see standing water, you do not try to drive through it. Our flood watch again in effect today into tonight, as well as even tomorrow, as we continue to see some additional showers and even some runoff still going into those streams, creeks, and rivers. This is just one forecast model for our potential rainfall accumulation. We're thinking about 2 to 4 inches of widespread rainfall, but with the nature of these thunderstorms, we end up seeing the development of what we call training thunderstorms. These are showers and storms that redevelop over the same locations for prolonged periods, and it leads to heavy rainfall in the same spots and therefore some higher rainfall totals. So we could see some localized areas that pick up 4, maybe even 5 inches of rainfall over the course of the next 24 hours or so. And in those locations, that's where our flood risk will be the highest. Of course, it's impossible to pinpoint exactly which spots will end up seeing the majority of the rainfall, but at this point, it looks like kind of the 85 corridor may end up picking up a good deal of that rain as those showers and storms start to move in. The flood risk is what we're watching for the closest, but there's also a low end threat for some severe weather. A lot of our area is covered in this yellow color that highlights our slight level 2 risk for severe weather. So within that level 1 to level 2 risk, that's where we're going to be on the lookout throughout the day today, especially worry as we start to get into the afternoon for some isolated storms that could become strong or severe, and yes, maybe even develop a little bit of rotation. We had a tornado watch in effect this morning for the northwestern corner of the state. The National Weather Service just issued a new tornado watch that does include Metro Atlanta. So this includes Fulton County, DeKalb County, off towards Cobb, as well as Gwinnett, and then areas down towards the south and the west as well, where tornado threat will be increasing a little bit as we get into the afternoon. This goes until 7 o'clock this evening. We'll have this tornado watch in place, and the National Weather Service has already said that it is likely that this tornado watch will be extended further down towards the southeast into central Georgia as well. But because of the slow moving nature of these storms, they have a little time to get that tornado watch kind of figured out before they issue it for portions of central Georgia. I want you to be weather aware throughout the day today, but know that while we could see some isolated brief spin-up tornadoes, that tornado threat does remain relatively low. In fact, the lowest among our storm threats. It's more likely that we'll see some strong, potentially damaging winds and then some heavy rainfall that could potentially lead to some flooding. Here it is broken down hour by hour on our forecast track. So we've been tracking these showers and storms as they very slowly move towards the southeast. We will continue to do so as the day progresses, as temperatures perhaps warm up a little bit. We'll start to see some more pockets of the heavier rain show up on our forecast track, the oranges and the reds across portions of northwest Georgia. This is by 1 o'clock this afternoon. Rainfall is really just starting to enter into the perimeter and impact Metro Atlanta. So we've got an hour, maybe 2 hours before we start to see the heavier rainfall across portions of the metro. This will continue to sink down towards the southeast into the afternoon very slowly. In fact, on our forecast track, you can see that this particular forecast model has rainfall through the Atlanta metro pretty much beginning at 1 o'clock and then still ongoing. This is by 10 o'clock this evening. Still seeing some of those areas of heavier rainfall through the Atlanta metro. And I think this should help make sense as to why we are more concerned about that flood risk, especially later this afternoon and evening. Now, the main line, the leading edge of the storms, will start to push down towards the southeast out of our area by about the time of sunrise tomorrow. But behind it, we could still see some areas of rainfall that linger into Monday morning, or maybe even the second half of the day on Monday, especially down towards the south and east of Metro Atlanta. We'll gradually start to clear out that rainfall throughout the day on Monday, but it will be kind of a slow clear out when it comes to rain. That severe weather threat, again, going to be the highest through the next few hours into this evening across North Georgia. We're already seeing areas of heavy rainfall. This is our view currently in Rome. You can see the rain coming down. It is gray. It is dreary. This is our view out towards Truist Park, where the Braves are scheduled to play in just a couple hours. So far, no word from the Braves on what the plans are for that game, but we will likely see some rainfall. How impactful that rain will be, what decisions the Braves will make, still yet to be said. But if you are headed out to Truist Park or you're already on your way towards the Battery, just know that showers and storms are soon to begin, and they will be kind of relentless throughout much of the day today. It won't end up being a complete washout into the afternoon across all of North Georgia, especially into northwest Georgia. We'll start to see drier conditions a little earlier in the day, but rainfall is likely to get in the way of any plans that you have throughout the day today. This is our view right now in Rome, where temperatures are a little bit cooler. Currently in Atlanta, we're at 73 degrees with winds out of the south-southeast at about 8 miles per hour. Where it is currently raining, so up into the northwestern portions of the state, temperatures are in the 60s thanks to some of that rain-cooled air. Hot air has really stuck around the last couple of days. We hit record high temperatures on Friday. We ended up just shy of record yesterday, but the cold front that is producing all of this rainfall is also bringing a little bit of a cool down as we go into this upcoming week. So cooler air sinks down towards the southeast, bringing a big drop for us to start off the week. In fact, Monday looks like one of those days where it could actually be cooler in the afternoon than it is in the morning. Our official high temperature for the day on Monday may end up taking place sometime around midnight with temperatures in the 60s. We'll still likely be in those low 60s by the time the sun rises on Monday morning, still dealing with some scattered showers. And then throughout the day on Monday, temperatures will be falling. So by the afternoon, We're into the 50s, and we'll continue to see a little bit more of a chill in the air as we go into this upcoming week. In fact, highs by Tuesday only get up to 61 in Atlanta, and then we'll rebound quickly as we go into Thursday as well. So a reminder, we do have that weather impact alert in effect for today across North Georgia associated with that possibility of storms. Some of them could be severe, as well as that risk for some heavy rainfall that could lead to flooding. So you just need to stay weather aware, stay alert, have a way to get those watches and warnings as we go throughout the day today and even into tonight and tomorrow when it comes to the flood risk. Our weather impact alert continues through today. We will hang on to some rainfall into Monday, and then sunshine is back in the forecast by Tuesday. We'll have live updates here on 11 Alive Plus. At this point, we're doing them pretty frequently, about every half hour. We'll have this radar as well as our graphics running constantly to make sure you are informed and weather aware should there be any watches or warnings issued.